Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Clutter. I'm your host, Margo, a professional organizer specializing in chronic clutter. And today we're going to talk about decluttering with anxiety. So before we begin, I want to ask you a quick question. Does the thought of decluttering your space ever make your heart race? Like you just glance at that pile of stuff and immediately feel your anxiety dial up. I used to be exactly the same. But here's the thing, decluttering doesn't have to send you spiraling. In fact, I've found some pretty cool ways to tackle the mess without losing my mind, and I'm excited to share them with you today. I want to start off by saying that if you're struggling with anxiety and the idea of decluttering feels impossible, you are not alone. I myself have generalized anxiety disorder, and I know how it feels when your space seems to mirror the chaos that's in your mind. Sometimes just looking at the clutter can make me lose it and scream inside my own head. But here's the thing, decluttering doesn't have to be this huge, scary task. In fact, what I've learned is that it can be a way to manage my anxiety rather than trigger it. So let's start off with tip number one. For tip number one, which is probably the most important tip, and this has completely transformed how I view decluttering and more so how I work with my clients. Tip number one is to simply start small. Like really small. When anxiety is your constant companion, thinking about decluttering an entire room can feel so incredibly debilitating. I don't know about you, but when my anxiety goes up, I go down, as in face first into a pillow, right? If I'm on the verge of an anxiety attack or, oh my God, on those rare occasions when I'm about to have a panic attack, I just want to get into bed, go to sleep, pretend that the entire world does not exist. But when it comes to decluttering with anxiety, instead of taking in the big picture, just focus on one tiny area at a time. Maybe it's just a drawer or even the surface of your nightstand, or maybe just a few items of clothing. This will keep your anxiety low and your motivation high. Let's move on to tip number two, and that is to, instead of ignoring your feelings, and I know this sounds counterproductive if you have anxiety, but you want to tune in to your feelings. Decluttering with anxiety isn't just about the physical stuff. It's about the emotions tied to those things. As you pick up each item, ask yourself, does this make me feel good? Or does this add to my stress? If something triggers negative emotion, it might be time to let it go. And if letting it go feels too hard, then that's okay too. Set it aside and come back to it later. There is no rush. You are the one who's setting the rules and the protocols for how you declutter your space. So forget what social media says. Forget how your mom decluttered or your friend decluttered or what anyone else's house looks like. If you have anxiety, the most important thing to do is to go at your own individual pace. Tip number three, use decluttering as a mindful practice. When my anxiety starts to spike, I find that turning decluttering into a mindful activity helps me stay grounded. Focus on the task at hand, feel the texture of the item, and breathe deeply. This way, you're not just clearing out physical clutter, but mental clutter too. If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, you can try the rule of 5 grounding exercise. This works especially well for me, and as someone who lives with anxiety on a daily basis, I will frequently go to the 5 grounding exercise to lower the feelings of overwhelm and panic. And what the 5 grounding exercise is you want to simply pause when you're beginning to feel anxious, and you want to, in your mind or even out loud, name 5 things you see, 5 things you hear, 5 things you smell, 5 things you taste, and 5 things that you can touch. And this will kind of deflate those feelings of anxiousness and overwhelm. And just like the exercise is called, it'll ground you into the present. If you've never tried it, and if you're somebody who lives with anxiety, this exercise is phenomenal. Let's move on to tip number 4, and that is, and I cannot say this enough, and this applies to you whether you have anxiety or you don't have anxiety. Tip number 4 is to celebrate your small wins. Here is something I've learned the hard way. Every bit of progress counts. Maybe you didn't tackle the whole room, but you cleared off your desk, or you sorted through that one drawer. That is huge. Celebrate those small wins. It's not about perfection. It's about making progress at your own comfortable pace. Tip number 5 is to reach out for support. Whether it's a friend, a family member, or a professional, I myself have an incredible therapist that I see every Friday at 11 o'clock. Don't hesitate to ask for help. Decluttering with anxiety can feel overwhelming, and you don't have to do it alone. Just having someone by your side can make all the difference. Sometimes something called body doubling can help with this as well. Simply by having a person present while you declutter is enough to ground you. This also works especially well if you are somebody who has ADHD. Because I know the incredible power, and I've seen results again and again and again with my clients of body doubling, I actually host free live body doubling workshops every other week where a bunch of us ladies get together on Zoom. We choose a small area or category of items in advance to declutter, and we declutter live. And we are supportive, and we laugh, and we tell jokes, and we share items that we have found. And of course, I am there as a decluttering coach to help answer any questions that you might have. If you're interested in signing up, again, it's 100% free. It's for your benefit. I'll leave a link to it in the show notes. Remember that it's okay to go slow, to take breaks, and to do what feels right for you. If you are somebody whose New Year's resolution, or you're completely committed to achieving a clutter-free home, to purging your entire space, right? You're just like your motto for the new year is no more clutter. I am having an insane 4-day Black Friday one-on-one decluttering coaching sale. Once a year for only a few days, I drop my prices. One-on-one decluttering coaching for a month is 75% off. And if you're interested to learn more, I will leave a link to it in the show notes as well. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Good luck on your decluttering journey, and remember to be good to yourself.